I've forgotten a lot of my purpose and a lot of the reason why I'm doing this and a lot of the reason why I'm here. And he reminded me of what we're doing and what we're trying to do and why my role is important. Director of Learning Support Services, and what that means in our district is I lead a team that supports the Title I schools. So our schools that have the most poverty in them, our lowest income schools by percentage. And we're a big district. We've got 66 schools, and about half of them are low-income Title I schools. And we commissioned a task force a little more than a year ago to try and study and figure out within our own district, with all of the money and the resources we put towards Title I schools and low-income students, why does it seem like we're not getting a return on our investment? Why do we see those schools continuing to struggle? And so halfway through this week, where Manny's been here the entire time, we had one of those task force meetings, and I started the meeting out because a lot of times there's just a lot of angst and a lot of challenge for principals that are at those schools. And we're working with a group of principals, and I said, hey, let's start out with something positive. What's the most positive thing that's happened to you this week? What's the best thing that's happened to you? And the first principal raised her hand and said, actually, it was my teachers going to Manny Scott's professional development 2 days ago, because they all came back to school and they were all certainly inspired and certainly fired up, but their comments were, I've forgotten a lot of my purpose and a lot of the reason why I'm doing this and a lot of the reason why I'm here. And he reminded me of what we're doing and what we're trying to do and why my role is important. The next principal raised his hand and said, well, Manny came to my school and did an assembly with all of the kids. We had the entire school there. And to see kids standing up and saying, that's happened to me too, and to see that happening in mass, and for my staff to see those kids standing up and saying, no, I've been through trauma, I've had some of these same experiences, I think was shocking and a visual symbol and a reminder to me as a principal, to our staff, that these kids are going through difficulties and challenges. And then another principal raised their hand and said, my best thing that's happened to me this week has been going and seeing the Manny Scott's professional development that he had with all of the teachers, because one of the things that stood out for us and our staff that we talked about afterwards was how we are making a difference, and what would life be like if we weren't here for these kids. And we beat ourselves up sometimes over comparisons to other schools that are maybe having more success, but sometimes it's good to remind yourself, hey, if we weren't here, where would these kids be? So let's continue to do what we do to support them. So that was the overwhelming response from people this week when I asked, what's the best thing that's happened to you? It was having Manny Scott come and present and do what he does.